kind of amazing how once you've qualified something as snow, you can go bluer into the shadows and darker and bluer into the shadows. This is kind of unrestricted, sort of filtered sunlight hitting the snow here. And then we have something distant casting a shadow across here. And in the foreground we've hit the bottom of this little ravine, grotto, whatever you want to call it. So here I was using ultramarine blue, yellow, ochre, and white. Here I was using ultramarine blue, yellow, ochre, raw umber, and white. Here the same, but adding a little more yellow ochre. Now I'm into really here and here, and across the bottom, ultramarine blue and raw umber. No, I'm not claiming this is the finished, sort of the last stand, the last look that it will have, but in a way you could say I'm blocking in my colors. When I think of blocking in my colors, I think of somebody who's actually sort of making an underpainting, a wash in. I'm trying to lay in my colors in such a way that I'm trying to minimize any further action required, It's just going to be kind of mostly a done deal, with the exception of a few other hints. And I'm still get a little more ultramarine blue on my palette here. Let's just use it up in the last few strokes. Okay, don't get too streaky here. We're at the bottom of the painting. I don't want a lot of dark lines drawing attention to themselves. We'll make the bottom a little less defined, a little more indefinite. Not indefinite, indefined. Less important, It's like there has to be just enough here to support all of this, but not so much that it draws attention to itself. Again. I did most of this throughout the afternoon. I'm not doing much work at the moment. I'll get back into it after the New Year's more heavily. I don't think I'll be receiving my large canvas. What's it going to be? 36 by 72 inch canvas until the New Year anyway. So until then, I'll probably just play with this one. But we go through a lot of ultramarine blue, as you know. I use it in so many combinations of my colors. It's incredible. I like to play with woodwork now and then, and I've carved a bunch of walking sticks and canes and a number of years ago I made a coffee table that's in our living room now, and I used ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. You know how I've gone on about those two colors and the combinations thereof, and I kind of streaked those on as a stain. Here, let me just move the camera a second here. but I like them so much that I've used them to stain wood. Now, you know, using the combination of the two on wood, you end up with things looking mostly brown, because burnt sienna is a very strong color, and you know, make a blue stain out of oil paint and put it on wood, it'll tend to turn brown anyway, right? Unless you go pretty thick. But by definition, a stain is just to be a stain, not a paint. But I just use, anytime I've stained something, you know, smaller articles of wood, the largest being the coffee table, I'll just mix ultramarine blue, maybe some cobalt blue sometimes too, and burnt sienna, if those are the colors I'm after. You can use any of the colors, it doesn't matter. That's personal taste. And then a little bit of turpentine for the first coat. Let it soak in. And then after that, if I want it stained more opaquely, then the second coat will be thinning it off with turpentine and linseed oil. After that's all done and dry, then I'll just use linseed oil and boil linseed oil and let it soak in repeatedly, like I mean several coats, and it gives it a depth. It gives the wood a depth. It does a great job. It's a lot more work than just going to the hardware store and buying some stain, but it does a way better quality thing. You know what I'll do here? I guess maybe I'll just show you quickly. I don't know if I showed you this thing, but this is a stock, a forearm stock that I have on a little pellet gun. Okay, now it's a pump gun, so I was pinching my fingers constantly on the little piece of plastic that this gun came with. So I cut out a piece of walnut. It's simple. There's nothing to it. I care more about function than anything. And this came as a pistol to make it more steady, more to allow me to be more accurate with it. I bought this stock from Crosman as well, and it's nice, it's handy, but it's got a very long draw, and I have to have my scope way back on the gun. I don't like it. I'd like it more forward. I'd like the ability to have more eye relief, so I'd like the stock shorter. So I did this pretty quickly, I guess. Grabbed a piece of spruce and carved out this thing. I don't know if you can see that. I don't even know if you care. I mean, this is a painting channel. But I think I would take this plastic off and replace it with that thing. For one thing, it looks way better, and it would get my cheek up higher so that I could line up my eyes with the scope, and I could move the scope forward. Anyway, but this thing too. Okay, let me just put this stuff away for a minute. This too, it's a piece of spruce, very soft, very light, very porous. Not wood, not the piece of wood I'd use for my final. What do you call this? Buttstock, I guess. But even on here, you can see graduations of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, and there are hints of yellow ochre, or hints of cobalt blue mixed in with it. So you can see what it does to the wood. Look at these scratches. That's just terrible sanding job. I don't care. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But staining it takes no time at all. So that's why I've done it that way. But I just love those combinations on wood, those color combinations. I think they look great. And then if after using this for a while, I really like it, then I'll take it off and I'll replace it with this chunk of walnut, which needs a lot more work. And if I'm going to keep things, you know, if I'm going to use this piece of walnut, then I'll do a really nice job. It won't be just quickly slapped together, cut out and sanded out stock. So that could be nice. You know, this gun, this air gun that I have it on, it's just a cheap thing. You know, but for a pistol, it's fantastically accurate out to about 35 yards. I love playing. I love plinking. You know, knocking cans down in the backyard and what have you. So I don't want to invest too much into it, but sure is fun. And for me too, half of the fun of playing with these things is building them. Taking them apart, polishing them, changing them slightly. It's another hobby. There are too many hobbies, period. Okay, that was a really strange segue from painting into woodstock for guns. But I love those colors. I love that ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Don't pre-mix them. Put them on in different. You know, one. If I use a brush when I put it on, I get just a regular paintbrush, and I'll put some on. Or you can use a rag or toilet paper, whatever you want. But you know, one stroke with with the grain, a streak of more ultramarine blue, and then the next one adjacent to it, a streak of more burnt sienna. Cover the whole thing that way. Then wipe all the excess stain off, and by the time you've wiped it off, you have pretty much just the right amount of variation in color, without it looking like it was painted like a rainbow. You know, a two-color rainbow. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I know this is not the content of my channel typically, but that's what I've been doing lately. Having fun with it, doing that and relaxing. And just playing very small amounts here and there. But it's funny when you tackle a bit and then you tackle a bit more and you know, doing a little bit here and there. Suddenly you realize this painting's almost finished. This one is not almost finished, it's still got a ways to go. But I like it, it's looking good. Talk to you soon.